Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my good students for BS English program. For a long time, I was not making any video, not uploading video because I had a trip to Pakistan and almost this was not very long trip, but I was very busy and now again I came back abroad. But today I have the remaining video because some students they were asking teacher, some questions were left. There is a video for BS English Linguistics program for the first chapter. Okay, let me share the screen and then I can show you. Okay, now you can see the screen I'm sharing. You see here, that was our last societal multilingualism. We were actually discussing our first BS English Linguistics, Paper-1, Emerging Trends in Sociolinguistics, Electives. Okay, the course code was ELL416. So you have to see, we previously finished a lot of questions. If we can bring you back, we finished a lot of questions on it. For example, what is societal multilingualism? We finished this question. Okay, what is diglossia? We finished in the previous lecture this question number 2, and then we finished question number 3. What is code switching or societal multilingualism? Then we finished. You can see what is domain. I give you example of this fox. Okay, then what is language birth? I give you example of 2 languages, Pidgin language and Creole language. Okay, that is almost I had. What is then next question was what is language and gender research? This is the last question research. Actually, we discussed 9 questions, 1 to 9 questions for this chapter of societal chapter 1 for BS English Linguistics. For the paper Emerging Trends in Sociolinguistics, it's an elective paper, course code ELL416, chapter 1, societal multilingualism. Some questions were left. When I was in Pakistan, some students, they were asking, but I was on leave. So holidays are holidays. Nobody can work in holidays. So I was there. And so now today is a weekend, so I thought it was better. Remaining question I can do it. So first remaining question, language shift, language death, and language maintenance. Okay, this is actually, there are several questions we are going to discuss today. You can see language shift, first language death and language maintenance. These are all part of the same thing. Let us go to introduce this question. Language and culture are 2 fields that cannot be separated to each other. They are all always related and dependent on one another. In the field of language and culture, there are several terminologies that perhaps some of you are not familiar. However, they are used and customized in our society in the course of the time. In this, I think, question, as an author, I would like to share some of you language shift, language death, language maintenance, 3 ideas of societal multilingualism. About this, the students were asking question. Teacher, you have not in the previous lecture you taught 7 to 9 questions, but you did not discuss because some students thought I said 7. No, actually I taught you 9 questions the previous lecture. So that's why that is why my lectures are very long. Mm, now today remaining questions. Now these 3 questions you can have to see. What is language shift? Okay, first we have to see linguists have been searching and researching the development of language content. They also successfully found the language that are shifted, died, or maintained by the origin speakers. In this article, I'm going to elaborate of language shift, language death, and language maintenance, which are related to each other, particularly in the examples. Okay. What is language shift? First question. Generally, when the speakers of a language consider that their own language is not really suitable to be spoken anymore, it usually follows with the changing of the origin language to another language that is more appropriate for them. When a group progressively abandons its language of origin, at the same time adopting the language of the socially or economically dominant group. It is said by Fisherman in 1971, and Baker already mentioned in 1998, while Anderson stated that the language shift is a process in which successive generations of speakers, both at individual and at community levels, gradually lose proficiency in their mother tongues or the language of their speech community in favor of other languages. This was written in a paper in 2009, page 1. The language is shifted highly in the bilingual and multilingual nations. This was said by Jagotic in 2011 at page 195 in his article. A clear idea of the occurrence of language shifting is made Fisherman 1964 with his own domain theory. When one language gets an expanded domain of use over others, there is a tendency for bilingual speakers to shift to it. There is also the possibility that the speakers tend to use the prestigious considered language instead of their mother tongue, with the reason it makes them have higher status in the society. A well-known language shifting example is the English only. In America, where most of the Native Americans were forced to use English instead of using their mother tongue, it was started from the amendment of Arizona that proposed the English only in 1988 and adopted by Utah government in USA to force their people to use English. Thus, the government policy is one of the factors of language shifting as well as the language maintenance. Another example of language shifting is from Anderson 2009 in his study, children to use English there as ex-colonial language in everyday language and in the school. These parents believe that acquisition of English as a first language will enhance their children's intellectual, social, and economic development. Now we discuss the second topic. What is the second topic? Language death. Here, language shift we have discussed and finished. Now, language death. How the language is died. Simple understanding of language death noted from the language shifting is that when the speakers leave their mother tongue and use other language, the mother tongue slowly or quickly disappear. Okay, Campbell describes the language death as the loss of language due to gradual shift to the dominant language in language content situations. There are 4 types of language deaths from mastery and leap, and they have given these numbers. I have given numbers. Number 1, gradual death, gradual replacement due to language shift. Number 2, sudden death, rapid extinction. For example, Tasmanian language is one of the examples. Number 3, radical death due to severe political repression. For example, the massacre of 1,000 Indian in El Salvador that killed one language. It's a radical death. Bottom to top death, not used in conversation, but survives in special use, for example, religion or folk songs. English is also one of the major causes of the death of many other languages. Cornish in England was disappeared after the speakers moved their mother tongue away to English. Okay, and while the case of Ghanaian language that is spoken in Ghana, an African country, is called Ghanaian language. Some of Ghanaian regional languages were away to English, while the case of Ghanaian language, some of Ghanaian regional languages were disappeared, such as Nabit, Sisala, and Likpapkan, because of English authority. So this is about language death. I have given you many examples. Ghanaian language death is one of the examples. Given you 4 examples of language death. Last one was radical death, sudden death, like this. Now come the next question. So what is the next question? Language maintenance. What is language maintenance? In order to avoid the phenomena of language shift and language death occur, language maintenance needs to be planned and executed in a nation. Language maintenance is the revitalization of a dying or endangered language. Okay, Mastery and Lee, they have described the language maintenance as the continuing use of a language in the face of competition from a regionally and socially more powerful language. Many countries such as Australia, Japan, Taiwan, Canada, Scandinavia, Papua New Guinea, and others have initiated to revitalize their origin languages after the wars ended. Ways of maintaining the language, such as education, documenting the language can be the alternative decision to revive the language in Ghanaian case. I give you an example of Ghanaian case. Their regional languages are maintained by the use of media. Most of the radio announcers in Ghana use their mother tongue to deliver the news. They keep using the regional languages because they can give the news and the views clearer. The media policy of Ghana also promotes all the television stations to use the regional languages to maintain their unity. Two patterns deserve comment in relation to the changing character of multilingual in the world today. One is increasing bilingualism in a metropolitan language, particularly English. Many smaller languages are dying out due to the spread of a few world languages such as English, French, Spanish, Chinese, etc. It has been estimated that 11 languages are spoken by about 70% of the world population. In this respect, the majority of the world's languages are minority languages. I mean, out of 11, all other languages are the minority language. Major 11 languages are being spoken in the world. The second is increasing linguistics and cultural diversity in parts of Europe and the USA through continuing and new waves of immigration. Immigration brings multilingual, societal multilingual, like Canada is an example where they have Spanish, French, Hindi, Urdu, Arabic, Arabic, okay? So many languages. Pidgin, Creole, Diglossia, many things. These two processes represent a struggle between increasing internationalization and cultural and linguistic, okay, homogenization, COCA, colonization, as it has sometimes been referred to, versus diversification. There is a clash of values inherent in the struggle between the global and local, between uniformity and diversity. Why I'm reading slow, my dear students, because many students have complained, teachers, you are reading so fast, we cannot understand. We are only a BS English student, BS English linguistics student, so we cannot understand. So that's why I'm slowly reading now. Maybe some students don't have good reading comprehension, listening comprehension, so that's why it's a problem. Okay, no problem. I will read slowly. The language of backward is English, not to use, it is to risk, okay, ostracization from the benefits of the global economy. It is for this reason that many developing countries opted to use the language of their former colonizers rather than try to develop their own language or languages. Using English or French in Africa seems to be cheaper than multilingualism. Such utilitarian methods of accounting do not, of course, factor in the social cost of effectively disenfranchising the majority of citizens who do not know English or French in many third world nations, where there are the official languages. Such policies lead to cultural poverty when linguistic diversity is lost. When large portion of the population are denied forms of self-expression, the nation's political and social foundations are weak. A nation that incorporates cultural and linguistic diversity is denying people the right to their own language and culture, does not provide a workable solution either. Ethnicity also grows stronger when actively denied, oppressed, or repressed throughout its 74 years of existence. Okay, Yugoslavia was a powder keg of ethnic rivalries which go back centuries. The country that has been dissolving these past few years was an artificial creation of conflicting cultures, held in check by a centralized communist government until 1980. Once the old regime crumbled, historical tensions could surface, leading to the unraveling of the country. The virtual collapse of the economies of the former Soviet bloc countries has shown the difficulties of centralized planning, which rides, okay, roughshod over the regional and ethnic affiliation. As far as the trend towards increasing diversity as a result of new immigration is concerned, in the European Union, for instance, 10% of the school age population already have a culture and language different from that of the majority of the country in which they reside. This figure naturally obscures wide variation among member states. In the Netherlands, for instance, Extra and Verhoeven, he wrote in 1970, 1993, page 72, say that influx of ethnic minority children in elementary schools in the four largest cities is presently about 40% and will increase to more than 50% in the early 21st century. As far as the future demography of the European community as a whole is concerned, Extra and Verhoeven forthcoming state that by the early decades of the 21st century, one-third of the urban population under the age of 35 will be composed of ethnic minority. That is the future of languages. Now you're happy, my students, I'm reading very slow as per your request. Okay. Australia has also experienced a dramatic shift in its ethnic composition since World War II, when its population was 99% white and almost entirely English speaking. The population grew from 7 million people of almost entirely British and Irish origin, 18 million people, nearly a quarter of whom were born overseas and are non-English speaking. Some 75 to 100 immigrant languages are now spoken in Australia. In the US, the projections for increasing diversity in the next century indicate that Hispanics alone may comprise over 30% of the total population. If we calculate the long-range social and economic cost of continuing the present pattern of understanding, undereducating these minority children in Europe and the US, the results are enormous. It is these children who will become the majority and upon whom the economic burden will fall of caring for the next generation of highly developed technological economies in Europe and the US will require an increasingly highly educated workforce. New member states in the European Union are almost certain to bring with them their own understanding under unresolved language problems and tensions between majority and minorities. Thus, conflicts will increase rather than decrease. In most parts of the world, there is little enthusiasm for the languages of immigrant minorities. Even when the language concerned is a word language, such as Spanish, as the case in the US, or Arabic language, is the case in France and the Netherlands. This is due to status difference between the majority and minority populations. Distinctive food, dress, song, etc. are often accepted and allowed to be part of the mainstream, but language seldom is. Another instruction to immigrant pupils is that opposition to it in the US has announced side by side with increasing concern over the lack of competence in foreign languages. Thus, while foreign languages, language instruction in the word major language in mainstream schools has been seen as valuable, both economically and culturally, bilingual education for minority students has been equated with poverty, and loyalties to non-mainstream culture will threaten the cohesiveness of the state. In this is I have given example. It's actually language changing face of multilingual in the modern world from different languages. Let's call it code switching, language change. Multilingualism is shaped in different ways depending on a variety of social and other factors which must be taken into account when trying to assess the skills of speakers and how speakers use the language they know. It is possible for a bilingual to be fluent in both languages taken together without being able to function completely like a monolingual in either one on its own. The study of the behavior of multilingual individuals and societies thus requires to us to go beyond many of the concepts and analytical techniques presently used within linguistic theory, which are designed in the description of monolingual. There is no evidence to indicate that multilingualism is an inherently problematic mode of organization either for a society or for an individual, because languages and dialects are often potent symbols of class, gender, ethnic, and other kinds of differentiation. It is easy to think that language underlies conflict in multilingual societies. Yet disputes involving language are really not about language, but instead about fundamental inequalities between groups who happen to speak different languages. In all, okay, let's just see the same question, language choice in multilingual communities. That is language choice. In all multilingual communities, speakers switch among languages or variety just as monolinguals switch among styles. The fact that speakers select different languages or varieties for use in different situations shows that not all languages varieties are equal or regarded as equally appropriate or adequate for use in all speech events. A foreigner who manages to learn a variety of Telugu language sufficient to get by on the streets of Hyderabad, India, will soon find out that this particular variety of Telugu cannot be used for all purposes which an English monolingual might use English for. The average educated person in Hyderabad may use Telugu at home, Sanskrit at the temple, English at the university, Urdu in business, etc. He or she may also know other varieties of Telugu or Kannada, Tamil, and Malayalam for dealing with servants. For other specific purposes, many South Asians have active control over what amount to complex linguistic, repertoires drawn from different languages and varieties. In societies such as these, multilingual is not an incidental feature of language use, but a central factor and organizing force in everyday life. In most parts of India, monolingualism would be problematic relative to the norms and expectations about the number of languages and varieties a person needs in order to manage the everyday things a normal person has to do. Although language choice is not arbitrary, not all speech communities are organized in the same way. Though the selection of one language over another or one variety of the same language over another speaker displays that may be called acts of identity. Choosing the groups with whom they wish to identify, there are, however, some common motivations for such choices in different societies. The first step in understanding what choices are available to speakers is to gain some idea of what languages and varieties are available to them in particular social context. Context in this case may be thought of in its widest sense as the varieties made available either officially or unofficially within the boundaries of a nation state such as Canada, or in a very narrow sense as the varieties available on a particular occasion, for example, shopping in an urban market in Kenya or in a department store in Strasbourg. Now we come to implication of language teaching. So we discussed language depth, language maintenance, language change. Okay, and implication of our language teaching, I have given here 6 points, some sub-points. Then again, this is type of code switching. I discussed diglossia and code switching. Pigeon Creole languages I have already discussed that is created due to immigrants. There are several reasons. There are several reasons. Okay, number one, what are the implications for language teaching? Language teachers need to revise their attitude with regard to the status and value of bilingualism. Bilingualism is independent of intelligence and consistent with the highest educational and socio-economic achievement. Number two, teachers need to realize that English, despite its undoubted importance, may only be one of the languages in a learner's repertoire. It may be unnecessary and unrealistic to expect complete and native-like competence in the entire range of registered styles and functions of English. Teachers need to be familiar with the other languages in the learner's repertoire. Language teachers trained in a monolingual paradigm are harsh towards minority students speaking mixed languages. A mixed code is important for an in-group bicultural communication as monolingual code would be communicating with monolingual in interlocutors. Multilingualism may not only lead to division of labor, but also a lot of give and take between languages. A relaxed, open-minded attitude can foster cultural pluralism. There are some subpoints you can see now. Some subpoints can be wide range of variation of English throughout the world. These variations are not deficient or fossilized interlanguage, but functionally viable varieties which follow different but productive formal processes of grammar and usage. The traditional prototype paradigm of second language teaching that a non-native speaker learned English to communicate with the native speaker is no longer applicable. Required course in sociolinguistics, constructive linguistics, methods, and materials for English teaching. So diglossia, I have already told you, implication for language teaching, a relatively stable language is used in which, in addition to the primary dialect of language, there is very divergent, highly codified variety, which is the vehicle of a large respected body of written literature, either of an earlier period or in another speech community, which is learned largely by formal education and used for written and formal spoken purposes, but not used for ordinary conversation. Classical Arabic and colloquial Arabic, colloquial local Arabic. Languages have some slight changes after every 17 kilometers, as said by Noam Chomsky. The high variety is used in mosques, news broadcasts, political speeches, poetry, and the low variety is used for conversations with friends and family, in captions on political cartoons and folk literature. Three conditions in a speech community that lead to diagnosia. What are these three conditions? Number one, existence of, while teaching language teaching, we must be careful. These are the implications. Existence of large body of literature in a language that is the same as the indigenous language and embodies some of the fundamental values of the community. Literacy in the community is only restricted to a small elite. A long period of time is involved in establishing the first and second condition. Educated Arabic deny the I variety of Arabic and believe that H variety is more logical, beautiful, and better able to express important thoughts. Code switching. Now, you already know I have already discussed this is the code switching. So, when two or more languages exist in a community, speakers frequently switch from one language to other. That has the implication on language teaching. Situational code switching, we have different. The situation is in response to a change in situation when a new participant enters the scene or to a change in the topic of conversation or the setting. Then metaphorical code switching, the switch has a stylistic, a textual function to signal a quotation, to mark, emphasize, indicate the punchline of a joke. Code switching is not random but functionally motivated. It is governed by a grammar and consequence. So that's all about code switching. So we have today discussed language shift, language death, and language maintenance. First I introduced and then I have discussed these things. Okay. And then I discussed the changing phase of multilingualism in the modern world. Okay. With that, I discussed language choice in multilingualism communities, multilingual communities, what are the language choices? I told you 11 languages are roaming around the world, or 70% of the world. And the rest of the languages are, they are not very important. Then in the end, I discuss implication for language teaching. English teachers teaching English language in different parts of the world, like me, I had I have an experience of teaching in many countries. So that's the implication for language teaching. Nobody knows better than me. Okay, let me stop sharing the screen and then I can show. Okay, so if you can see, so you can see me again. As I was telling you, implications for English language teachers. I have experience in teaching English in Malaysia. I have English teaching experience in Sri Lanka. I have English teaching experience in Republic of Maldives. For Saudi universities, I have taught. One American high school diploma program, I have taught. Okay, and in Sultanate of Oman, I have taught an English language center, Pakistan Embassy College and School. Okay, I had been an English teacher to University in Tadi, Libya. I was also teaching in Ukraine, Eastern Ukraine, University of Kiev. Sometimes I had been, you know, while my visit to Pakistan, I was teaching there. I taught a lot of institutions in Pakistan, like Pakistan Air Force College, Chapla, Islamabad. I was a lecturer in Army College, Rawalpindi. I was the academic coordinator. Okay, a lot of experiences I have. And this code switching and Pidgin and Creole languages, I personally saw them and felt them. You can see when I was getting my education in England, so it was very difficult to understand the language of somebody other who was speaking English coming from Africa. Because first they code switch in their own local language, then they speak English. Same like me. As I first translated Urdu into English, and then after this code switching, I speak English. But because I have a lot of experience, almost I have 3 to 4 years experience college level at Pakistan, with 23 years experience Arab world. Okay, during my PhD studies in applied linguistics. Okay, and during my one of the course in Dubai, I was teaching to the students English in an institution, international house in Dubai. A lot of experience I have, how the people they speak. Okay, when I visited Cochin in India in 2000, I think 2099, I visited. I found everybody in every house was a master, having a master degree, very good at English, but they have, okay, they have the accent of local language. So that is called a type of pidgin language. They were speaking, they were very intelligent, they were very good at education. And also they were speaking good English, not bad. They already learned accent. So this is what I'm telling you. There are a lot of, in the next chapter is about varieties of language. Of this paper, I will discuss a lot of things to you. So today we discuss question number 10 to 15 of the first chapter. Societal multilingualism is finished now. Okay. And we're going to start in the next lecture for the first paper of BS English Linguistics. Our next chapter will be okay, language culture, okay, language origin, like this. Hopefully, do not forget to subscribe this channel. These are free videos for you. Enjoy this video. Education is the right of everyone, and improve your education. God be with you, inshallah. Allah be with you. May Allah Rahim will shower more blessings on you. You can grow and be nice in your education. And hopefully, I can help you for your BS English Linguistics. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Wait for the next lecture. Do not forget to subscribe so that you should get automatic update for a new video. When you subscribe means you get an automatic update of a new video. Okay. Thank you very much. And bye-bye.